Well, today's a big day. This just came in the last couple of minutes here. My book, You Are the Brand. This is the hardcover. I've got the soft cover as well. And it's very surreal to kind of hold this in my hands, especially the hardcover. I really like this. I just wanted to record my thoughts while I'm still in the moment so that I don't have like time to edit, what I'm thinking. Couple of impressions. I really like how the hardcover is. I'm really glad I got or opted for that version. It's funny, like, to just see it on paper. I remember telling my designer Jason, like, I really like this font that we've been using. It's called Valkyrie, and I've been using in various places in my business for a long time. And it's kind of funny because it's a lot bigger in person than I thought. So when I read it, it's a lot bigger, but that'll be good because I think people like to read things a little bit bigger. It was like just over a year ago. It's May 2021 right now. A little over a year ago where I really started to feel like I should get serious about writing this book during quarantine. And it was actually a really hard thing to do, not just because writing a book is hard, which I think it is. I mean, every friend that I've talked to who writes books has said it's very, very difficult. It's like my book coach said, it's like giving birth to a child. Now, I can't use that analogy because I don't want to offend people who have actually had children. But it was really a tough endeavor because I've been writing copy for so long, like marketing stuff. It was hard to write the way I would for a book. Second, it was hard to write because I was writing about a time in my life that from 7 years ago, and I had to like emotionally go revisit a lot of those years. And there were some things that happened that I don't think I really finished truly grieving or getting through. And to like see myself and who that guy was, who that Mike Kim was when he was struggling and trying to find his identity and all of these things, and to now like put all those stories on paper and have to go through like old journals and like old photos and really document that life. It's not an autobiography, but there's quite a bit of my own story in it. And to pull from people that I learned from in those early years, there are like a lot of people in this book that I mentioned. I've been texting and reconnecting with and emailing a lot of these folks and say, hey, you're in my book. And they were like, hey, I had no idea. Thank you. And I said, no, thank you for you one time shared this piece of advice, or you came on my podcast when nobody listened to it and you shared this advice and it really helped me all these years. That was cool. I remember like the things that I learned through those years that I ended up putting in the book. I learned a lot just at home in New Jersey, like, studying and reading and doing all those things. And like, I missed my dogs because they were like there for so many of those hours and so many of those days. So that was emotional to kind of think about those times. The bookstores that I went to in the opening chapter of the book, or the opening of the book, I talk about how I used to go to Barnes and Noble in Menlo Park Mall in Edison, New Jersey. And that was where, I used to go all the time, just hungry for books that could show me what was possible in my life, like that I could reinvent myself. And I found a few titles. I remember picking up this one book called Reinventing You by this lady named Dory Clark. And I really liked the book. And it was like the only book I'd ever read at the time that sort of talked directly about reinventing yourself and changing careers. And it's crazy because all these years later, like 7, 8 years later, 9 years later, like that's Dory right there. She endorsed the book. These guys that I learned from, Pat Flynn and Michael Hyatt, these guys are all folks that really impacted me those early years. And, they've endorsed the book. It's just a collection of life. New friends that I've made in more recent years are all over this book. Dana Malstaff from Boss Mom, Paul Martinelli from Empowered Living and the John Maxwell team, Kira Hug, and of course, mentors like Ray Edwards, who were there since the beginning, and Jeff Goins, who's become one of my very best friends. And it's just kind of crazy to see, like, just hold it in my hands. And I don't really know what else to say, because I thought about giving up on this many, many times. And I actually signed this book deal 5 years ago with my publisher. And I didn't write the book for 5 years because I went through some pretty crazy personal ordeals. And I just didn't have the energy to write anything. And so the duality of, I think, wanting to write this, feeling like I missed out on a window in my career 5 years ago, and to think about what my career could have been, or what my life could have been, had I written a book 5 years ago and had been writing since 5 years ago. I'll be honest, I thought about that a lot, and I'd get a little bit annoyed at it or upset about it, and sometimes even upset at myself. Like, you can't control life, but I also feel like it just worked out in the right timing, because this book is 100% better because I did wait, and I did learn skills, and I did make connections, and I did make I did build relationships with a lot of these folks that I just mentioned over time. And I hope that it encourages you in some way to not feel that you missed your window or missed an opportunity, even if things happened in your life that you didn't expect. I'm just kind of leafing through the book here. And just keep going, and just keep pushing through. Writing this book was like pushing glue uphill, like literally the entire time. I don't think that there was a single day where I felt like it flowed really easily. I think it was just, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work, or like, oh my gosh, I can't put my thoughts down, and all that. And I'm just kind of sharing this with you right now because it means a lot to have this in my hands, and to know that, like, all of these ideas and experiences I've had in my life are now cumulatively collected in this thing that I'm holding in my hands, which is super weird. And I guess one of the weird things about my life, I've been a creator my whole life. I've done music, I've did art, and I wanted to draw comic books when I was a kid, and all that, is that I think ultimately I've always tried to create for myself, to know that I did the hard work of pulling something out of my head or my heart, and it's tangible, like I can hold it or I can listen to it. Like, I haven't done music professionally for a really, really long time now, but I still listen to some of the recordings from, my 20s. It's like a snapshot into my life. And one of the things I say in the book is you can't move on to the next chapter if you keep rereading the last one. And what I've discovered in life is that rarely do you just cleanly move from one season to another. There's always kind of an overlap. But sometimes creating something tangible, doing something, allows you to kind of demarcate a season in your life. I'm just really grateful for the countless people who have helped me in my life. I have quite a long acknowledgments section. I mean, it makes up this much of the book, it's a couple pages. And these are folks who have been in my life the whole time, or later, or earlier, and we just kind of went our own directions in life, but this project helped me circle back with them, and that's also very, very meaningful. I say in the acknowledgments that, many people celebrate scoring the winning run, not realizing that they were put on third base by the sacrifice and encouragement of others. And far be it from me to be one of those people. And that writing this book was like reliving the years since way back in 2009, when I first felt that my life was supposed to take a different direction. Those weren't easy years, and writing about that time was much harder than I expected. And there's no way I could have, done this without, you know, people in my life. And if you're watching this and you followed me or my work at any point during my career, and we know each other or we don't know each other or we've never met, I just want to say it's very meaningful to me to know that I have maybe played a small part in your journey. That's very, very meaningful. And I've never been a spotlight guy. I'm not wired that way. I don't like that. But I'm willing to do what I need to help people and to share my ideas. And I think it took me a long time to get to that point. So I'm going to close down this video by just encouraging you. And if I could just tell you one thing, don't give up. Do the hard things. This book forced me to do a lot of hard things. It forced me to ask for help. It forced me to reach out to people that I hadn't talked to in a while. It forced me to encounter emotions and things that I didn't want to, kind of like look at for a long time. And I think if you just pay the price in some way, that your life can really you can feel and say, like, I've lived a life worthy of my own respect. And I think that's a big deal. And if you are in the business of serving people, right, you're in the services industry. I end the book with this line, and I don't want to take credit for it. I don't know where I heard it, but it's certainly a principle that I've tried to live by. And it's this: don't look for a significant place to serve. Make where you serve significant. And that includes the people around you, especially the people around you. So I just want to encourage you today on what to me is a special day to actually hold this in my hands. And, both versions, I guess, is pretty cool. And honestly, if a person doesn't read this book at all, I'm still very, very happy that I did this. It really was for me to know that I put this out there, and I did it in a way to serve people, but this is one of the few times I'm very proud of myself. Okay. So, be encouraged, keep doing the work, and remember, you are the brand.